Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts is dedicated to preparing aspiring professionals in the areas of culinary arts, patisserie and baking, and hospitality and restaurant management.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions. Paperweights are the crown jewels of glass artistry. You can discover both antique and modern paperweights at the L.H. Selman Gallery in Chicago's Fine Arts Building.
It's interesting.
Either one.
Hello? Hello?
There.
Is that working?
That's your mic.
I'm staring at my food. I should say, by the way, that before I got into any of that, I grew up in the grocery business. And I still think of that as the most noble of professions. I don't know why.
Really?
My family business. Yes, the little Evergood Market in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My first job. This is very funny. When you were like deciding that you were a violinist at the age of 5, I was like stamping cans badly. So that's why I'm who I am and you who you are. Anyway. So I do this show for NPR that you may have heard of. Wait, don't tell me. And
4 million listeners.
4 million listeners a week.
4 million listeners.
It's interesting, we were just talking about how the show began, and I, as many people, I often lie and say that I came up with it myself at the age of 5. And I didn't. It was entirely created by NPR, and it was a very corporate, creative process. They were trying to figure out what public radio listeners might want to listen to on the weekends when they had their sort of fill of news, but were apparently judging by the ratings board with the various music programming or pet programming or cooking programming, excuse me, Jared, that was on offer at that time. And so what they decided was what the public radio listeners would want is they would want a quiz about the week's news. Because they had done this very elaborate audience research, and they had discovered that looking at the demographic of public radio listeners, the number one hobby of public radio listeners was feeling smug. And really top 1 or 2 or 3 listed of 80% of the respondents. Feeling smug, feeling superior. And so the idea is that we would go on the air once a week and ask people questions so that they could say, I know the answer to that. Lo, I am well informed. And head off to Whole Foods with a sense of satisfaction. By the way, when I go to a grocery store to this day, I bag my own groceries.
Oh, nice.
I do that.
Yeah.
And I do it with pride.
In your own cloth bags?
Yeah, I do my own cloth bags, but I bag because I used to do this for a living, right? I know how to bag your groceries. I know you put the bread on the top. And I was, and this is a true story, I was in Whole Foods, and like some person came up and said, you're not doing that right, and did it for me. And I'm like, I was bagging groceries before you were born, young lady. Anyway, sorry, moving on. So we ask all these questions that people know the answers to. So I was thinking about what I would do this evening, and I decided that there are a bunch of questions to which nobody knows the answer. And I thought I would share them with you, because I don't know the answers to these questions. This was somewhat inspired by my 12-year-old daughter, who is, like everybody in my family, a big Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter fans in the room? Yeah. And one day, and she was no more than 10, she said, if you're, and this will only make sense to you if you're really a big student of Harry Potter, if your biggest fear is a boggart, what do you see when you see a boggart?
Wow, that's deep.
Because a boggart is an invisible creature that appears to you as your greatest fear. So no one knows what a boggart looks like. All right. It's not Snape. It's not. Have another glass of wine, dude. It's not snake. Anyway, all right. So I wrote down these questions today. These are things that I don't know the answers to. In 2000, according to the pundits, the election was decided on which candidate Americans most wanted to have a beer with. So why did we elect the guy who did not drink?
We do not know this. Because we really didn't. You could argue that,
Yeah, I know.
you know.
Why do people still smuggle live animals through customs in their pants, even though they always get caught? Do they want to be in my show? Or perhaps they enjoy the sensation, as I am doing right now. Why did Mitt Romney even want to be president? Is it because he just looks like a president? By this logic, should I aspire to be Stanley Tucci? When Herman Cain responded to credible charges that he had sexually harassed at least 3 women by saying there were thousands of women he had not harassed, was he defending himself or regretting the lost opportunities? In that vein, did God arrange the 2012 Republican primary season as a personal gift to me? Or is it because the Republican elites have lost control of the base, or because media exposure has become more important than political success, or, I forgot the third reason. Why did Elliot Spitzer spend more than $4,000 to spend one evening with a prostitute? What extraordinary demands did he make? Was it like, you have to call me governor and you have to call it lieutenant governor? If and when President Obama ever has a scandal, will it be incredibly awful, like dead bodies in the basement? So we can all say, wow, you know, now that I think of it, him being perfect was kind of creepy. Speaking of which, David Petraeus began his affair with his biographer on fast 6-mile runs. Speaking as a long-distance runner myself, how exactly do you do that without tripping? When I ordered this custom-made jacket from a Hong Kong-based tailor, did he actually work for my measurements, or did he just send me something he had made for Stanley Tucci? If you were annoyed by a new trend among 20-somethings, could you end it completely and instantly by just having the New York Times cover it? I also have some questions about Chicago. Since we're short of native celebrities, can we claim a movie star as a Chicago native if he or she has a long layover at O'Hare? Speaking of which, if I have in fact succeeded Oprah Winfrey as the Chicago-based broadcaster with the largest national audience, do I have to not really live here either? Why do people line up at Garrett's Popcorn when you can just mix up some store-bought popcorn, some crushed Cheetos, and Elmer's glue? And lastly, this is in fact my deepest and most, bothersome question about Chicago. Why do tourists fly here from all over the world just to eat deep dish pizza? If it was actually good, don't you think you'd be able to buy it someplace else? Thank you.